At a Washington park, a 2-year-old toddler vanished without a trace. Her mother had stepped away briefly to grab a fresh diaper bag from her car when a friendly woman offered to watch that child, but when she returned just minutes later, both the woman and her daughter had disappeared. Police investigations initially yielded nothing, but 48 hours later, a park janitor made a shocking discovery inside the nearby restroom, evidence that left everyone involved fearing the worst. Rachel Bennett sat motionless in the hard plastic chair of the Sequin Police Department waiting room, her gaze fixed on the scuffed tile floor beneath her feet. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting an unforgiving glare that emphasized dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept more than a handful of hours in the past 48 hours, not since her 5-year-old daughter Haley had vanished from Everpine Park. Her trembling hands clutched a slightly worn photograph of Haley. The picture had been taken earlier that day at the park's playground. Haley's smile was wide, her eyes crinkled with laughter. In the photo, she wore her favorite red Elmo t-shirt. Same shirt she had on when she disappeared. Rachel glanced at the wall clock for 37 p.m. She had just finished her second exhaustive interview with Detective Hart, a methodical, stone-faced man with kind eyes that betrayed his professional demeanor. For 2 hours, they had once again dissected every excruciating moment of that afternoon at Everpine Park. Ms. Bennett. The desk officer called out, startling her. Detective Hart says it'll be about 20 more minutes before the forensics team calls in with their update. Rachel nodded, her throat too tight to form words. She returned, tottering at the floor, replaying the events for the 1000th time. In her mind, it had been a perfectly ordinary Thursday afternoon. She had taken Haley to Everpine Park after picking her up from daycare. The spring weather was mildened. Haley had been excited about going on the swings, her favorite. Rachel remembered how Haley had squealed with delight as they approached the playground, her tiny hand tugging insistently at Rachel's. Everything changed so quickly. Haley had a sudden bout of diarrhea, oiling her pull-up diaper badly. Rachel realized she'd left the diaper bag in her car parked about 200 feet away. In the lot, she tried to coax Haley to come with her, but the toddler had firmly planted herself on the swing, lower lip jutting out stubbornly as she began to throw one of her typical tantrums. No go, swing more, Haley had protested, her small face scrunching up with determination. That's when the woman on the park bench had spoken up. I can watch her for a minute if you need to grab something, she offered with a warm smile. I'm Melissa. I'm a kindergarten teacher. My son is over there on the monkey bars. Rachel had hesitated, looking between the friendly woman and her screaming daughter. It would only take 5 minutes tops. Are you sure you don't mind? Rachel had asked. Not at all, Melissa replied, already moving to sit beside Haley on the adjacent swing. We teachers are used to diaper emergencies. Take your time. 5 minutes. That's all it had taken for her world to collapse. When Rachel returned with the diaper bag, both Haley and the woman were gone. She'd immediately scanned the playground, her heart rate accelerating with each passing second. She called out Haley's name, drawing curious and then concerned looks from other parents. Perhaps they'd gone to the bathroom. Rachel had rushed to the park's restrooms, pushing open the heavy door with mounting panic. The women's restroom had been empty, each stalled door a yarno sign of Haley or Melissa. She'd checked the men's room to calling Haley's name with increasing desperation. That's when she'd called 911. Her voice breaking as she reported her missing child. Park security had been alerted immediately, and within 20 minutes, police officers had swarmed Everpine Park, questioning witnesses and forming search parties. They had called David immediately, her ex-husband of 6 months. Despite their bitter divorce, he deserved to know that his daughter was missing. His reaction had been exactly what she expected: explosive, angry, primarily at her. You let a stranger watch our daughter, he had shouted over the phone. What the hell is wrong with you, Rachel? Can't you just be a good mother? The police had searched David's house that evening as part of their standard procedure. They found nothing suspicious, and David had provided a solid alibi for his whereabouts. That afternoon, the sound of the station's front door opening pulled Rachel from her dark thoughts. She looked up to see David Langford walk in, his face already flushed with familiar anger, his normally well-kept appearance disheveled. His button-down shirt was wrinkled and his hair stuck up as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. Detective Hart had called him in to wait for the surveillance update and review his statement one summer. When David's eyes landed on Rachel, his expression hardened further. This is your fault, he spat, not bothering with a greeting. If anything happens to my daughter because of your negligence, I swear to God, Rachel, you'll never see her again. Not if I have anything to say about it. Rachel felt a surge of anger cut through her grief. Don't you dare threaten me, David. Not now. Threatening. I'm stating facts. You left our daughter with a complete stranger. I was gone for 5 minutes to get her diaper bag, Rachel shot back, her voice rising. And where were you? Oh, right. You were too busy with your important meeting to take Haley for the day, like you were supposed to before you canceled last minute. Don't turn this around on me, and speaking of diarrhea, it was probably that cheap daycare food you feed her. It wasn't the daycare food, it was that fruit pouch you sent over yesterday morning, Rachel countered. She was fine until she ate that and theft. After the daycare, David's face flushed deeper. Red, that's ridiculous. I bought her favorite snack from the store. There is nothing wrong with it. He took a step toward Richella's hands balled into fists. At his sides, Officer Diaz, who had been at the front desk, quickly moved between them. That's enough. Detective Hart's authoritative voice cut through the tension as he emerged from his office. Both of you need to calm down. This isn't helping us find Haley. David took a deep breath, visibly trying to compose himself. Fine, what's the latest have? You found anything from the surveillance footage? We're still waiting on some results. Detective Hart replied, Mr. Langford, I'd like to go over a few more details with you while we wait. Make it quick, David said, checking his watch. I have a meeting in an hour that I can't miss. Rachel started him incredulously. Their daughter was missing, and he was worried about a meeting before Detective Hart could respond. The desk phone rang. Officer Diaz answered it, his expression changing rapidly as he listened to the caller. Whatever news he was receiving, it wasn't good. The officer quickly put the caller on hold and approached Detective Hart, speaking in a hushed voice. Rachel stood up, her heart hammering against her ribs. Something had happened. Detective Hart's face grew grim as he listened. He nodded once, then turned to Rachel and David. We've just received a call from a janitor at Everpine Park, he said, his voice steady and controlled. He found something in the women's restroom. You should know about Rachel's legs nearly gave out beneath her. Is it? Did they? She couldn't finish the question. No, not Haley, Detective Hart quickly clarified, but the janitor found a shirt and a soiled diaper inside a locked stall in the women's restroom. The shirt matches the description of what Haley was wearing when Shetty sappered, a red Elmo shirt size 2T. Haley had been wearing it for 2 days straight because she refused to take it off. I need to go there, Rachel said already, reaching for her purse. I need to see it. We will head over, Detective Hart applied. You can come with us, but I need to prepare you. I've received photos from the field team at the park, Detective Hart announced, holding up his phone. Bennett, would you like to verify if these items belong to Haley? Rachel nodded, standing on unsteady legs. Detective Hart showed her the screen. The image showed a small red t-shirt with Elmo's face prominently displayed on the front, laid out next to a soiled diaper. Both items were on the tile floor. Off Hut was clearly a public restroom. That's her shirt, Rachel confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. She was wearing it yesterday. She loves Elmo. A sob caught in her throat. I need to go there. I need to see it in person. Detective Hart nodded. We'll go now. The forensics team is already processing the scene. I can't go, David announced abruptly. I told you I have that meeting, but I want to be kept updated on everything. He pointed a finger at Detective Hart. You call me the second you know anything more. Without another word or even a glance at Rachel, David strode out off the station, leaving behind a wake of tension and the faint scent of expensive vicarage. Rachel watched him go, a mixture of anger and disbelief coursing through her. How could he possibly prioritize a meeting over their missing daughter? Button again, that had always been David's way. Work first, family second. It was ONF. The many reasons their marriage had fallen apart. Miss Bennett, Detective Hart's voice pulled her back to the present. Are you ready to go? Rachel nodded, squaring her shoulders and taking a deep breath. Yes, let's go find my daughter. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Everpine Park as Detective Hart's unmarked police car pulled into the parking lot. The playground equipment stood eerily empty, cordoned off with yellow police tape that fluttered in the breeze. 2 police cruisers and a forensics van were already parked near the public restrooms. Rachel felt a surreal sense of déjà vu as she stepped out of the car. Just 48 hours ago, she'd been here with Haley, watching her daughter laugh as she pushed her on the swings. Now the park felt like a crime. Sean Becca's. It was this way, Miss Bennett, Detective Hart said, guiding her toward restrooms where a small cluster of officers and forensics personnel had gathered. As they approached, Rachel could see evidence markers placed on the ground near the restroom entrance. A tall, thin man in a gray maintenance uniform stood off to the side, speaking with a female officer. He kept removing his cape and running a hand through his salt and pepper hair, his expression troubled. That's Frankie Morales, the park janitor. Found the items, Detective Hart explained quietly. He's worked here for over 15 years. Rachel nodded, her throat too tight to speak. She watched as a forensics technician exited the restroom carrying 2 clear evidence bags. In one was Haley's red Elmo shirt, and in the other, the soiled diaper. Seeing the items up close made Rachel's heart clench painfully in her chest. Ms. Bennett, the SS, Officer Chen from our forensics team, Detective Hart said as the technician approached. She's been processing the evidence. Officer Chen, a petite woman with intelligent eyes and a gentle demeanor, nodded respectfully to Rachel. We've done our preliminary exam of the items. She explained there's no apparent blood on either the shirt or diaper, which is a good sign. Rachel released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. What about, can you tell if someone hurt her? We won't know everything until we get these back to the lab. Officer Chen replied carefully, but there are no immediate signs of trauma. Based on what we found, the diaper appears to simply be soiled, consistent with your report of Haley having diarrhea, Detective. Hart motioned to the janitor. Mr. Morales, could you please tell Ms. Bennett what you told me about finding these items? Frankie Morales approached, twisting his cap nervously in his hands. His weathered face was etched with concern. Ma'am, I'm so sorry about your little girl. I've got grandkids myself, and I can't imagine. Thank you, Rachel said softly. Please just tell me what you found. Frankie nodded, furthering himself. I do my cleaning rounds 3 times a day. Here, morning, afternoon, and evening. This morning when I went to clean the women's restroom, I noticed the last stall was locked. I knocked, but no one answered, so I figured it was just stuck. Happens sometimes with these old locks. He gestured toward the restroom this afternoon. Same thing, stall still locked. No one inside. I meant to bring my tools to fix it, but got called to handle a spill on the other side of the park. But just now, during my evening round, I decided to check if it was still stuck when it was. I used my master key to open it, and that's when I found. He trailed off, glancing at the evidence. Bags, the shirt and diaper were just sitting there on the floor. Rachel asked, kid trying to understand. Yes, ma'am, right in front of the toilet. Looked like someone had just left them there. Detective Hart interjected. Mr. Morales immediately called 911, and our officers responded within minutes. Could my daughter have been in there? Could someone have been keeping her locked in that stall? Rachel asked, her mind racing with terrible possibilities. Officer Chen shook her head. It's unlikely, Miss Bennett. We've dusted the entire stall for fingerprints, and while we found partial prints on the lock mechanism, we found no child-sized prints anywhere in the stall, not on the walls, the toilet, or the floor where a child would likely have touched. What that mean? Rachel asked, looking between the officer and detective. It suggests that Haley wasn't physically in the restroom. Detective Hart explained gently. Based on the position of the items and the lack of child fingerprints, it appears someone placed these items there deliberately. But why? Why would someone take my daughter's clothes and soiled overnight diaper, then leave them in a bathroom still? Detective Hart's expression was grim. It could be to mislead us, to distract our investigation, or send us in the wrong direction. Rachel felt her knees weaken as the implication hit her. This wasn't a case of Haley wandering off or getting briefly lost. Someone had intentionally taken her daughter and was now playing a calculated game with the evidence. What about the dirt on the clothes? The janitor asked, noticing smudges on the shirt through the clear evidence bag. Haley's clothes were already dirty. From playing in the playground that day, Rachel answered. Officer Chen nodded. We'll analyze all the soil and stains in the lab. That might tell us if the shirt has been somewhere else since Haley was wearing it. As they spoke, another forensics technician emerged from the restroom carrying a small evidence envelope. Detective. The technician called. We found a partial fingerprint on the stall door that doesn't match the janitor's or any of the prints we've collected from TARC staff. Detective Hart's posture straightened with interest. Good work. Get that back to the lab immediately for analysis. Priority 1. He turned back to Rachel. We're going to continue processing this scene thoroughly, but I'd like to head back to the station. Now, we should be receiving updates on the park surveillance footage, and I want to review that with you as soon as. Rachel nodded, taking one last look at her daughter's shirt in the evidence bag. It seemed impossibly small and vulnerable, just like Haley. As they walked back toward the detective's car, Hart cleared his throat. There's one more thing, Miss Bennett. We need Haley's medical records and birth certificate for our database. It helps us with verification and in alerting hospitals and surrounding areas. Rosia stopped walking there at David's house. Your ex-husband has thimmies. I dropped them off at his place a few months ago during a custody handover. He was supposed to make copies and return the originals to me, but despite my reminders, he never did. Rachel sighed with frustration. I know exactly where they are, in the bottom drawer of the whole just past his front door. Detective Hart frowned slightly. We can send an officer to pick them up. No, it's okay, Rachel said, surprising herself with offer. I can get them. David's place isn't far. I'm not sure that's a good idea, Miss Bennett. Detective Hart said cautiously, given the tension between you twirlier. I'll be fast and careful. Rachel promised. I won't get into any confrontation with him. Detective Hart studied her for a long moment, then reluctantly nodded. All right, but please just get the documents and return to the station immediately. And call me if there's any problem at all. I will, Rachel assured him, already calculating how quickly she could read the documents and return. Every minute counted in finding Haley, and she was going to waste a single one. As they got back into the detective's car, Rachel stared out at Everpine Park, a place that had once been filled with her daughter's laughter but was now the starting point of a nightmare. She couldn't wake up from back. At the police station, Rachel stood behind Detective Hart and a tech specialist as they reviewed the surveillance footage from Everpine Park. The monitor displayed a grainy black and white view of the parking lot near the playground. Detective Hart had explained that while the park's security system was outdated, they had managed to retrieve footage from the day Haley disappeared there, Rachel said, pointing at the screen. The timestamp read 3:42 p.m., approximately the time Haley had vanished. A woman carrying a girl in aired shirt was hurrying toward a sedan parked near the edge of the frame. A young boy, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, followed closely behind. That's her, that's Melissa. Detective Hart leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Can you zoom in on the vehicle? The tech specialist adjusted footage, zooming in on the sedan as it pulled away from the parking spot. The angle's bad, he said, but we can make out part of the license plate. Rachel could see only half of the plate number before the car moved out of the camera's view. Run that partial through DMV database, Detective Hart instructed. Cross-reference with sedan models matching this description already. On it, the specialist replied, his fingers flying across the keyboard. It'll take some time to narrow down the results, but we should be able to get a list of possible matches. Rachel wrapped her arms around herself, fighting a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. Seeing the woman Melissa carrying her daughter away made everything terrifyingly real. She seemed so normal. Rachel whispered, so helpful. She said she was a kindergarten teacher. Detective Hart's expression remained professionally neutral, but his eyes softened with sympathy. Child abductors often present themselves as trustworthy. They know exactly what to say to gain a parent's confidence. The tech specialist turned up from his computer. Detective, I've sent the partial plate information to the officers. They'll begin running through the system with the make and model. We should be able to narrow it down significantly. Good. Hart nodded. Issue an emergency B with the vehicle description and send the woman's image from the footage to all patrol units. He turned to Rachel. While we're waiting for those results, it might be a good time for you to get those documents from your ex-husband's house. Rachel nodded, gathering her purse. I'll be as quick as I can do. You need an officer to accompany you? Hart asked. No, I'll be undercal. Insisted. David should still be at his meeting, and I know exactly where the documents are. I'll just grab them and come straight back. Before leaving, Rachel signed several release forms that would allow police to access Haley's medical information if needed. The bureaucratic process felt surreal. Signing papers while her daughter was missing, but she understood the necessity as she was about to leave. Detective Hart approached with a stern expression. Miss Bennett, I know this is difficult, but I need to remind you, if you don't counter your ex-husband, do not engage in any confrontation. Just get the documents and return Harry immediately. I understand, Rachel said. She walked out to the parking lot where her car had been sitting. Since yesterday, the late afternoon sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the asphalt. As she slid into the driver's seat, Shetry, David's number one more time. The call went straight to voicemail. David, it's me. The police need Haley's medical records and birth certificate. I'm coming by to pick them up from your place. Calm back. If you get this. She ended the call and started the engine, her mindrassing. The police were tracking down Melissa, the woman who had taken Haley. Perhaps by the time she returned with the documents, they would have located her address. Thought gave Rachel a surge of hope as she pulled out of the police station parking lot. The drive to David's house would take about 15 minutes closer to finding Haley. Rachel told herself she had to believe that as she drove. Rachel's thoughts drifted back to the surveillance footage. Something about Melissa had seemed so genuine, so trustworthy. How could she have been so wrong about someone, and why would a woman with her own child kidnap Summy and Niels's? None of it made sense, but then nothing had made sense since the moment she returned to the playground to find Haley gone. Rachel turned onto the familiar street where David had bought a house after their divorce. A modern two-story in a quiet neighborhood that was nothing like the cozy craftsman they had shared during their marriage. As she approached his address, she rehearsed exactly what she would do: find the spare key, retrieve the documents from the hallway cabinet, and leave. Simple, fast, no complications. Rachel pulled into David's driveway, immediately noticing his silver Audi parked there. Her heart sank. Mention of a meeting, his car was still home. She briefly considered calling Detective Hart, but decided against it. She'd come this far, and the documents were too important to delay. Retrieving, she parked behind his car and sat for a moment, gathering her courage. Through the Audi's rear window, she could see several grocery bags in the back seat. Curious, she stepped out of her car and peered inside. The bags appeared full of supplies, though she couldn't make out specific items. Next to the bags sat David's personal suitcase, the expensive leather one he'd bought during their last anniversary trip, and a blue cooler box suite. Would he have packed bags in his car? Rachel murmured to herself, a sense of unease growing in her stomach. She tried the car door, but it was locked. Stepping back, she pulled out her phone and dialed David's number again. This time, after several rings, he answered. "What do you want, Rachel?" His voice was turned impatient. "I'm at your house. The police need Haley's medical records and birth certificate for their database. Remember the ones in your hallway cabinet that you never returned to me?" There was a pause. "You shouldn't be at my house." "I wouldn't be if you'd returned her documents like I asked you to a dozen times," Rachel replied, struggling to keep her tone. "Even the police need them, no, David. This is important." Another long pause followed, then a heavy sigh. "Fine. There's a spare key under the stepping stone near the potted plants in the front yard." "Thank you," Rachel said, surprised by his sudden cooperation. "I'll just grab the documents and go." "See that you do," David replied coldly. "I don't appreciate you showing up at my house unannounced and going through my things." "I'm not," Rachel began, but David had already hung up. She pocketed her phone and walked to the front yard, scanning the stepping stones until she found one that wobbled slightly. Lifting it, she discovered a small magnetic key box hidden underneath. She removed the key and approached the front door, her heart racing despite her attempts to stay calm. The house was silent as she entered the hallway. Was immaculate, so different from their family home that had always been cluttered with Haley's toys and the happy chaos of family life. This place felt sterile and personal despite the 6 months David had lived here. Rachel went directly to the hallway cabinet, opening the bottom drawer. She found exactly what she was looking for, a manila envelope labeled Haley. In her own handwriting, she pulled it out and quickly verified the contents. Haley's birth certificate, medical records, social security card, and immunization history. Everything that police might need was there with the envelope in hand. Rachel should have left immediately. That had been her promise to Detective Hart, but something felt off about the packed car, the suitcase, the cooler. Why would David have those items ready if he was just going to a meeting? Gained her better judgment, she found herself walking through the house, scanning for any sign that might indicate where Haley could be. The living room was sparsely furnished with a leather couch and a large television. The kitchen was spotless, no dishes in the sink, no sign of recent cooking. It looked like a model home rather than a place someone actually lived. As she passed the master bedroom, she noticed the door was ajar. A sliver off, her conscience warned her to turn around and leave, but a stronger instinct, a mother's instinct, pushed her forwards. Bedroom was as meticulously kept as the rest of the house. The king-sized bed perfectly made with crisp navy sheets, but what caught Rachel's eye was on the dresser, a gift wrapped in blue paper, decorated with colorful cars and ships, the kind of wrapping paper you'd use for a young boy's present. Beside it sat a woman's hair, clipped tortoiseshell and delicate. Definitely not something that belonged to David. Rachel froze, staring at these items that seemed so out of place in her ex-husband's sterile bedroom. Who was the gift for, and whose hair clip was that? A chill ran down her spine at the thought of David possibly having a girlfriend or someone helping him. He had never mentioned anyone, not to the police when they questioned him yesterday, not to mutual friends, not even to family. Rachel took out her phone and snapped photos of both the wrapped gift and the hair clip. Then, careful not to touch the clip directly, she went to the kitchen and found a clean dish towel. Using it to pick up the hair clip, she placed it in a Ziploc sandwich bag chiffoned in a drawer. "Might be useful," she whispered to herself, sealing the bag. Her heart hammered in her chest as she turned off the lights, closed the doors she had opened, and made her way back to the front entrance. She locked the door behind her and returned the spare key to its hiding place, trying to leave everything exactly as she had found it back in her car. Rachel took a deep breath, clutching the manila envelope and the sandwich bag containing the hair clip she needed. Get back to the police station immediately. Whatever connection David had to this new woman Detective Hart needed to know. She started her engine and began to back out of the driveway. When her phone rang, it was David again. "Are you still at my house?" His voice was tight, controlled. "I'm just leaving," Rachel replied, trying to sound casual. "I got what I needed. I'm heading back to the station now." "Good. Don't come back here again without my permission." There was an edgy tone, his voice, that made her skin crawl. "I won't," she promised, ending the call. Ask drove away from David's house. Her mind was racing, the packed car through suitcase, the gift for a boy, the woman's hair clip. None of it made sense individually, but together they painted a disturbing picture. She had driven only a few houses down when she noticed a taxi coming from the opposite direction. She didn't think much of it until she glanced in her rear view mirror and saw the taxi's brake lights illuminate as it stopped in front of David's house. Rachel slowed her car and pulled over to a discreet spot, watching as a woman stepped out of the taxi. Even from a distance, she could make out the leather jacket, a hijab covering her hair, and large sunglasses that hid most of her face. "Who is that?" Rachel whispered, pulling over to the curb. Several houses down from her vantage point, she watched as the taxi driver opened the trunk and removed a large, bulky box. He helped the woman carry it to the driveway, setting it down near David's Audi. The woman paid the driver, and the Taxi pulled away. Rachel's curiosity overpowered her caution. She turned off her engine and sank lower in her seat, watching the mysterious woman through her side mirror. David had never mentioned any Muslim friends or family members. Who was this woman, and why was she at his house with a large package? The answer came a moment later when the woman reached into her purse, pulled out a key, and unlocked David's front door. As if she'd done it 1,000 times before, Rachel remained perfectly still, in her car, heart pounding as she watched the woman enter David's house. This wasn't just any visitor. This woman had her own key. The strangeness of the situation kept Rachel rooted to her spot, despite knowing she should be heading back to the police station with Haley's documents. What is going on here? She whispered to herself, adjusting her side mirror for a better view. The woman stayed inside the house for several minutes. Rachel used this time to quickly note down the taxi's license plate number before it disappeared or in the corner. Something told her this information might be important. Just as Rachel was debating whether to call Detective Hart, the front door opened again. The woman emerged carrying a duffel bag that appeared fully packed along with the blue-wrapped gift Rachel had seen on David's dresser. The head coverings and large sunglasses still obscured most of her face, making it impossible for Rachel to identify her clearly in the dimming evening light. What happened next left Rachel speechless. The woman reached into her purse, pulled out a car key, presumably to David's